All right, welcome back to Fusion Friday. Today what we're going to do is we are actually going to start drawing out some floor plans in Fusion 360. And to do this, we're going to use a couple of new tools. We're going to, use the Canvas tool. This tool is very helpful because it allows you to import an image into Fusion 360 and then essentially trace off of that image and then define the geometry to make sure that everything is dimensioned correctly and is fully constrained. So we're going to learn how to use that, and we're also going to learn how to input parameters into Fusion 360. That way, for common dimensions such as wall thicknesses or door heights, you can input that dimension once as a parameter, and then you don't have to type that number manually every time. You can just type in the parameter. So let's go ahead and get started with this. So first thing you'll need to do is actually in the OneNote, you need to download this image of our floor plan into your computer. Okay, if you're using Mac, you can just right click and then click on Save As, and if you're using Windows, it will be a similar feature. So let's go ahead and download that. And then back in Fusion, what you want to do is you first want to go up to the Insert tab, and you want to insert a canvas. Now, if you insert this from your computer, you'll see that the floor plan that you downloaded is right there in your downloads folder. And then what you want to do is you want to assign this canvas to the bottom face. And we'll go ahead and we'll zoom way in, and you'll see that now our image is right on the canvas there. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Now, for architectural floor plans, typically all of your dimensions will be given in feet and inches, as you can see in this drawing below. So what we can do is we can go up into our document settings and we can change our units into feet, and then we'll press OK. Now what we have to do is we have to calibrate this image, because right now we need this to be 24 feet long, but this image is likely going to be very, very tiny right now. So we have to essentially scale it up so that way we can model this out to the correct dimensions. To do this, we want to go into the Canvas tab that's on the left side of your screen now, and if we right click on that floor plan picture, we can calibrate it as such. So click on the calibrate option, and then what you want to do is you want to click on distances between 2 points that you know the length of. So for example, if I click on this point here and then this point here, looking at the drawings, I see that this is supposed to be 24 feet. However, right now it's coming as 0.02 feet, which is way smaller than we need it to be. So I can change that dimension to the 24 feet that I know it's meant to be. And then you'll see it kind of zooms the thing way in. So you're going to have to zoom out a lot in order to get it back to a scale that you want to actually use. And then you'll notice that the origin also moves a little bit. So what we can do is we can edit our canvas. And again, we just want to move it back so that way these walls are pretty much right in line with our origin there. Just like that. And now we could go ahead and hide our origin again and keep moving. So now what we can do is we can actually start to add in some parameters based on some of the common dimensions or the typical dimensions that we see in this drawing. Okay, so if you go up into the Modify tab, and if you go into the Change Parameters option, what this option allows you to do is it allows you to add certain parameters for dimensions that you will use later on throughout the model multiple times. Right? So we can analyze this image that we have behind us and add in some of those typical dimensions. For example, if I were to I see my interior wall thickness is 3 inches typical. So what I want to do is give that a name. Okay, their interior wall, I'm just going to call this IW. Okay, you don't want the name to be something too long, because what you're going to do is every time you dimension it, you're just going to type IW in order to dimension that typical 3-inch wall thickness. So I'll make my units in inches and then just type in the value 3, and then you can just press OK. Okay, so we'll just go through and we'll do that with all of our parameters that we see here. So we see the interior door width is 3'6" typical. So I'm going to say door width is 3'6". And then press OK, and then we'll just keep on going throughout the thing. The exterior walls are 7 inches typical. Maybe we can't do EW, so let's try EXW. For some reason it wouldn't let me type EW. Maybe that's already a constraint in Fusion. So EXW is 7 inches typical. Now let's look at some information here. We see that our windowsill right here, so this section view, look at where this section view is taken. It's taken right through a window. Okay, and over here on the right side, we have some information about the windows, the ceiling heights, etc. So looking at this, we can see that we've got a couple of parameters given to us. All door jambs are 6'8" typical. All right, so this is our door heights. So I'm just going to do DH for door height is 6'8" typical. And then all our windowsills are 9 inches typical. So windowsill is 9 inches typical. All right. Now we also know, looking at this, all of our walls are extruded or brought up to 9'6". Okay, so all of our ceilings are 9 feet 6 inches tall. So 9'6". Oops, and we need to call that, we'll just call that our wall. 9 feet 6 inches. All right, and last, we've got 2 more that we could add for our windows. One is our window sill goes up 3 feet before it actually turns into the window. Okay, so I'm just going to create one called window sill. I guess I can't do window sill, so maybe window sill. And the window sill is 3 feet tall. So we'll go ahead and press OK with that. And then last but not least, the window height itself, the win H, is going to be 5 feet tall. We'll press OK. All right, now that we've got all our parameters in place, we could go ahead and start to create our sketch. So we'll create our sketch right on this face here. And now, since we've kind of positioned our canvas in such a way that it's locked in place, it's going to be really easy for us to go back in and trace all of these rectangles and then add in the proper dimensions. So let's go ahead and start with just a big rectangle. We know it's going to be 24 feet by 30 feet. So that's pretty good. Okay. Now we want to just add in a couple of rectangles around it. All right. The canvas itself is not going to be perfect. The canvas is really only there to help us get the outline of our basic shape. We then have to come back in and add in all the necessary dimensions ourselves. Okay? So let's go ahead and add in all of these dimensions. And it looks like some of our dimensions are actually missing. The ones on the interior doors, for example, are not fully given to us. So we'll have to make some inferences in order to create those doors. Okay, but we could go ahead and add those 2 rectangles, and then we'll add some more where our windows are at. Okay, now that I've got everything drawn in, at least I think I do, what I actually want to do is just turn off my canvas and just make sure everything looks right. I've got all my windows. I just want to make sure I'm not really missing anything. I haven't added any constraints yet, and that's okay, because we're going to come back in and add those right now. Okay, so what I want to do first is remember how we started off with those parameters. So now when I go ahead and add in my dimensions, for example, this window height or this window thickness, we typed in that our windowsill, our WS, is going to be 0.75 feet, or 9 inches. So I can go ahead and just add that dimension for my windowsill, instead of going back and remembering, oh, what was my windowsill thickness, and have to keep referencing that. I can just use that parameter that I typed. If I just type WS, Fusion automatically inputs the correct dimension for me. Okay, and we'll just go through and do that same thing for all of our dimensions. Okay, so anywhere that you have an exterior wall, you can tell that it's an exterior wall because they're thicker and they're only on the outside of our wall. We would want to add that dimension. Similarly with the interior walls, with any doors that you see, and you could tell that the doors are where they are by this little symbol here. This little kind of angle with an arc represents a doorway. Okay, and we'll have to come back in and make some inferences on the exact location of where these doors are meant to go based on our floor plan. So we'll go ahead and we'll add in all of the dimensions for the interior walls and exterior walls, and then we'll come back and we'll make some inferences on those. Additionally, any dimension that's given to you in the floor plan, for example, the window width or the window length we see is 5 foot 7 inches. We could just go in and type 5 foot 7 inches, and then the dimension from here to the edge is 3 foot 6 inches. Okay, now we see that that's fully defined, and then once we add our exterior wall, we see that now it becomes fully constrained, just as we want it to. So we're just going to go ahead and add in all of the dimensions that we see in the floor plan, and also the ones that are the parameters that we defined. Okay, now we've got everything in for the most part, except for our door lengths, right? And we see that that's the big place where our sketch is missing some constraints. And also right here, I missed this window, 6 foot 3 inches. Okay, so now I want to come back in and just make some inferences about this door's location. Okay, and this one I want to try to keep it as close to the canvas as possible. This is where the canvas tool kind of comes in handy, because if there are any dimensions that are missing, you can make some inferences based on its current position. So right now this is just about 11 inches away. So you'll see if I constrain that dimension to 11 inches, then I can go ahead and lock in the rest of this door. So it's 11 inches from the wall, and then our interior door, our door width. Now you see I can add in that dimension. So we're just going to do the same thing for these last doors. So from here to here, this is about 10 inches. And we'll add that door width as well. From here to here, we've got about almost 9 inches. So we'll go ahead and type that, same thing, add in our door width. And we notice that once we did that, our sketch has now become fully constrained. So we are good to go. We can go ahead and we can hide our canvas. And now you see we've got our floor plan all laid out in Fusion, which is great. Now, what we can do is we can begin to extrude this to make it three-dimensional. Okay, so to do this, kind of similar to what we did with the parameters and all of these dimensions here, since we have all of the heights added as parameters as well, we can also extrude certain features to those same heights. So we'll go ahead and we'll start by just extruding all the walls. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on any wall that I see, making sure not to get any of those door frames or windows or any of that stuff, and just extruding that up to our wall height, which we can go back to our canvas and we see that all of those walls are that 9'6" So, and we already added that in as wall. So we could go ahead and type that, and then we're good. Now we've got the layout of our walls. And then we could come back in and add in all of our extrusions for the other features. So maybe now I want to go in and add my windows. And to do my windows, I'm actually going to start this as 2 extrusions. The first extrusion I'm going to do is to add material everywhere to include the walls. And then what I'm going to do is come back around and cut away for my windowsills. So I'm also going to extrude this up to be wall for right now. I'm going to make it a new body also, just so I can clearly see what's a window and what is not. Click OK. Now I'm going to come back in with a second extrusion, and I'm going to look at it from the bottom because it makes it a little easier. And I am just going to click on all of my sills one more time. And now that they're extruded, it's a little easier to see what's a windowsill and what is a door frame. So I'll go ahead and click on both of those. And now what I want to do is I want to start with an offset of my windowsill. And I think I called that Win S. And then my distance, I want to make that my window height, my Win H. And you'll see that now it cuts away the material right where my windows are, which is exactly what I want it to do. So we'll go ahead and cut that away. And then the last thing that we need to do is just add in those door frames. So what we could do is we could click on everywhere that we see a door. So all of these doors. Okay. And what we could do is we want to also offset that by our door height. And then to extrude this, what we want to do is we want to take our wall and then subtract our door height. You can do that kind of addition and subtraction with these parameter dimensions as well. And we'll make these new bodies as well, just so that we could see the defining lines of the door frames from above. And that's essentially it. Now you see we've got this 3D representation of a floor plan, which is really, really handy in Fusion, because then you could kind of get a visualization of what a space might look like once it's actually built from an architectural floor plan.